Hello everyone, my name is Zach and welcome back to another franchise-shattering tutorial on what to expect when you're DMing for the first time with no money in your bank. Well, hopefully you have electricity and food and stuff, but good luck. That being said, we've already gone through the tutorials of starting new pages and starting new games, but this tutorial is going to be focused on using your tools as a DM for Roll20. And I'll be covering a wide plethora of other tools and websites later on down the road. But for now, we're going to start with your good old basics. Again, very free is a good price. Free is the second best price there is. So as a default, of course, you'll note that when you start up in a map, in a new game, you're going to have the mouse in front of you. The mouse is, of course, first selected here in your toolbar, which is what we're going to be focusing on today. The toolbar should be in the top left corner of your map. If it's not, fix it. With your select and move, it's a basic standard mouse. You can highlight multiple tokens or iterations on a map to mess with. Excuse me. That you can use. The pan view, of course, allows you to shift around the map a little bit. I don't use that, but you can if you'd like. Just make sure you have select and move on when you want to move and manipulate tokens. Your second tool is the layers button. So what this is a stupidly useful tool that I would recommend everyone learning the ins and outs of, although it's pretty straightforward. That's what I'm here for. The pretty straightforward parts. Traditionally, each D&D game has 3 layers. Your map and background, your objects and tokens, and your GM info layer. When you have a map out in the world, which is something we're definitely going to have to do if I'm going to be using these tools, then that should be on there. Now, it is not guaranteed to be on there, but that's something that we can fix. And I'll go ahead and show you how. As an example, let's pull out a bit of information here. So I believe I have here. Perfect. So this is a free map, so no worries on royalties there, that I got from some event that Roll20 was having. I'm going to go ahead and delete that just to show you again. When you're pulling it out, of course, it sizes down. In order to change that size, which we're definitely going to want to do, it's a straightforward, just little tool, pull tool. I prefer to go ahead and size it to the entire length of the map. And that way you can see all the vibrance and joy. Now, if we pull out a map, you can see that it defaults to the objects and tokens layer. The object and tokens layer is where the players are going to be using their objects and tokens. So having the map there is going to cause great strife because, you'll notice you can't see the grid anymore. We want the grid. The grid's our friend. We like the grid. So we want to make sure that we're using that. Also, a player could very easily move your map by not being able to being able to click on their token on the map. So we want to make sure that it is inaccessible to our players. The easiest way to do that is, the right click. Hey, it's finally come into play, the right click. It's only a matter of time. The easiest way to do this is to right click your token, and you can see where it says at the bottom layer, and you can shift it directly to the layer that you want. If this is a map, we're going to want it on the map layer. Excuse me again. Now that it's on the map layer, I can no longer manipulate it. Unless I go over here to the map and background, and then that will shift my identity over here with my mouse that I can change ad nauseam if I need to. So, we need objects and tokens to be able to play with. So let's do that. In this same kind of little tool set, I have a rowboat. Oh, look how adorable it is. So, personal preference, red flag, big note here. It naturally defaults things to the small 1x1 grid size. That's fine. However, it is sometimes hard to see. So, a lot of players will go ahead and readjust to kind of fit that. Some players get upset by this because the rowboat can't possibly be that size. I'm blowing it up so that you can see the thing. You know, if it's that small little token and you don't have a 50-inch screen in front of you, it's a little hard to see. But it's mostly for artists' sake, so that you can see the damn thing. I prefer it blown up just so I can see it. If you don't, sorry. Now that we have a token on our map, again, it defaults to your objects and tokens, which is, of course, selected here. If you do select another one, another layer, and you can see the layer is now on map and background, and drag out a token, it will automatically go to the background selected. This is both a gift and a burden. It's a heavy price to pay for responsibility and power. I don't remember. Because it's easy to forget that. It's also easy to make things wiggly and movie, which is annoying. It's not life and death. I'm sorry if I'm building that drama up, but it's irritating, and that sucks. So now that I have the token on the wrong layer, I want to try and move it, and it's easily moved now, but it's not always easily selected. Sometimes it's easier to miss that little token spot, especially if the token is its normal size. And like, oop, up, I'm trying to grab the token, and I'm just trying, see, do you get the idea? You get the idea. Again, easy way to fix this is to right-click it and put it back where it belongs. And it's disappeared, mostly because of the coloration. See, it's still there. So let's move back to our objects and tokens. So two things, and we're going to go ahead and blow this one back up as well. We'll keep it there just for instant. You'll, of course, notice that there is one layer missing that from my explanation, my wonderful, flawless explanation that everyone can understand. The GM info layer, GM information, or DM info layer, this one, is for your records, not the player's records. An example. Your character is just washed up on this little island after a huge fight and the boat collapsed. Things happen. Sorry about it. So they take this little rowboat and they land on the little island. Your characters are now exploring the little island to see what it is. If you have a twist where there is another boat here, why is there another boat? It's up for you to decide, but not important to this scenario. If you want to hide this fact, this little boat here, until players approach or get closer to it, you can put it on the GM layer. Again, right-click layer, GM layer, and then you can still see it. But the players cannot see this. They cannot see it. This is also, the GM layer is also useful for stat blocks and tokens that you can put in the background that you can drag and manipulate for later examples. And if I'm on the GM layer, it's super helpful because I, again, cannot manipulate any other tokens. But I can move this around if they're on this side and the boat is on a timer where it's going to ship out and away. You can kind of manipulate that and, oh, they suddenly came to it. Now we'll reveal it, as an example. That being said, that is a tool that you can use. Groovy. Moving on in our super tool list here, the GM overlay opacity is just something how visibly things are, the token's gradient of visibility. I'll show you that real quick. See the differences? It kind of highlights how exactly... Ooh, that's invisible. These are. And that's something that I actually don't ever use, but it is a tool that you can use. Isn't that lovely? So we're going to change that, and we'll be golden. So now that we kind of have our little map and our little tokens, we can manipulate further and farther ahead. Into our tools. The next one is your draw tool. If you ever used MS Paint as a kid, oh God, I'm showing my age, aren't I? MS Paint's not around, right? That closed. I remember that. You'll be able to recognize this as a simple draw tool or the pencil. But if you've never used these things, luckily I'm here for you. First step, the draw shape tool. If you hover over it, you'll get a small black box that says draw a rectangle, which is your default. If you hold Alt on the keypad, board thing, you'll draw a circle or an ellipse. If you hold Shift, you'll snap it to the grid. That is a useful tool that I actually end up needing more often than I probably should. I really should use it more often. So if you click on Draw Shape, you're going to get a note of a couple of different boxes. Again, nothing overwhelming. We're all in this together. Don't panic. The regular is the easiest one to explain first. Go ahead and click on that. And look, it's just the size. It's not that big of a deal. Don't worry about it. Just to show you the examples, begin, it defaults to rectangular. If you hold Alt, you'll get a little circle. If you hold Shift, you can draw on the grid directly. Why would you do this? It's super useful for spells, but we'll get into that later. So there's your 3 examples. Of course, you can change the colors of your drawings. Look, now it's yellow. And then the backgrounds of your drawings can change as well. It's yellow with a gray box. That is hideous. But it's useful for like smoke bombs or clouds or something like that. So it does have its use. Not that big of a deal. Whoops, that is the wrong click. So that's basically the quick design for your drawing. Drawing your predestined shapes. Let me say it that way. If you click on a shape, you can, of course, manipulate its color again if you need it. This is an inventive tool for spells, for timers, for dungeons, for short versions of, hey, this is something dangerous. I don't use it for that, personally. I use it to draw funny shapes because I'm cool. If you ever needed to delete one, you can, of course, click on it. Clicking on a shape is sometimes really difficult because of how finicky it is. So I always just drag the mouse over as a group, like an RTS. And then, of course, you just hit delete. Oopsie. And then you can manipulate them accordingly, just like your tokens. Is that tripping anyone else out? Because it's making my head go crazy. So we'll go ahead and delete those. In the same toolbar, you're going to see a couple of different tricks as well. Freehand is a very straightforward, similar tool. You're going to notice the same bars here as before. Change the size, change the colors, change the background. But freehand is just this. This is where you get to draw all of the little naughty things that people love to do in DS. Again, if you need to delete it, just hover your hand over it, click and drag. It's easier that way, so you're not trying to click on that little bitty line that likes to panic and freak out. Trust me, it's going to save you time. The next one is your Polygon Line. If you hover over that, you're going to notice a very similar looking tool set. Hold Shift to snap to the grid, Control Z to undo the last point, right click or escape to complete. Again, nothing to panic, but we'll cover it. It allows you to click on points. That way you can, manipulate maps, or hey, we went this way to this way to this way to this way, or it allows you to draw very specific shapes. You just notice that I right click there and it changed the ending caps. Those points are done and I can draw a new one. Easy, simple. If you hold Shift, of course, you can drag. You can go the exact grid coordinates. That's also useful. and then escape again. Doesn't really seem to work, I'll be honest. But it's a very useful tool, and if you want them delete, make sure you're on the mouse. Hover over them. Am I being repetitious? There seems to be a lot of similarities, and you are worried. Back into our draw tool, of course, the next one down is text. Text is a little goofy in this game, if I'm completely honest with you. It doesn't work as well as you might want, but it tries. It tries. So in your first tool set, oh no, new tools. You're going to see Arial. That's your couple of straightforward, hey, this is how the text looks. We'll change it to light just to see the difference. And of course, you have your size coordinates, 56, of course, because things cannot be big enough. Last but certainly not least is the text's color. In order to start typing and texting, all you need to do is click, and you can start. I'm hilarious. Other boat. If you hit enter, you will actually drop down. So you don't want to do that. So we're going to backspace that and leave it just like that. But how do I confirm it? Just like that. If you click on the mouse above, back to your pointer, it will auto-confirm that and have it floating in the world. Ooh, other boat text. Which of course you can manipulate it down. You can resize it. You can resize. You can fucking. Okay, you can't resize it. But you can angle it, which is cool. Yay. If you want to resize it, of course, change the font size. Ooh, spooky. Other boat. That's funny. I'm hilarious. And of course, you can always change the text as well. Oof. It's weird how the black was actually the right choice the first time. So, when I said it was a little goofy, I did mean it. A lot of people are tempted to drag their text. What I mean by that is, and I'll show you here, we go back into our text line, and we can try and drag it, and it kind of pops and appears, which is rough because if you already have text and trying to do that, it kind of goofs it up. And then you have to go back into your tool. You have to delete that. You have to restart it. It's annoying. So just be a little cautious when you're doing that, but it's a straightforward. Click text, click the button. There's your text field. Easy, simple. Last and certainly not least in our drawings is clear drawings. Confirmed. This is where you get to clear all of them all at once. If you have an unruly bunch of people that are drawing naughty little things in your map, this is a good way to get them all off at once. Clear. It will also delete all of your text. Anything that's in this tool set will be deleted. Your shapes, freehand, your polygon lines, and your text. So be cautious. If you're trying to delete individual things, just do the method I was doing earlier where you drag the mouse. But there you go. Next up is a magnifier tool. It's very similar to the one that we were using on the right side of the screen. It's self-explanatory. I can't explain a magnifier any more than you can possibly hope for. Although it does show that this map is really well detailed, and that's always appreciated. So we're going to go ahead and go back to our 50%. Yay. That's easy and straightforward. The next one is not as easy and straightforward. This is the ruler tool. Yeah, that's a ruler. I know. I was shocked too. But apparently this is the ruler tool. If you click on that, and you can drag your mouse out, hey look, I have a little arrow with square grid coordinates and size coordinates, or distance coordinates, excuse me. This thing has a lot of use. It is probably the best tool for players to use. Hey, you're an initiative. You have 30 feet to move. Okay, I'm starting here. I can get here or here. I have a short bow. I can shoot up to, 40, 60 feet. That's the entire island. It's such a good tool. And it auto colors. You can see mine's purple based on your name so that you know who's dragging out their things if they all have different colors. And they should make them have different colors. It helps. Darn it. That being said, this thing has a fantastic uses. If we go back into our tool, you'll notice, first off, snapping to corner and no snapping. You'll see that even though I click on the middle of the boxes, it'll snap to a corner. That's fine. It adjusts just barely. I'm talking too much. I apologize. And it's got a little bit of a cleaner line to it. It's not super the most dire things. So snapping to center is just easier to use. And then, of course, no snapping is I can put it wherever I want. And it'll give you a little bit of a different graphics. I have never seen a use for that, if I'm honest with you. I'm sure there is for like very specific games of like firearm use or Warhammer or something in that regard. But the snap to center works just fine. In the tool frame, you'll also notice it says show to others and hide from others. That's for players or DMs to stretch things and go, hey, he's not in range, or hey, he's in range. You know, if you're calculating a fireball trajectory, you might want to use hide from others. But I have never really found a use for it, if I'm honest with you. My players are very, like, relaxed. It's not urgent and dire games, really. So just take a chill pill. That being said, that is not all the ruler can do. I know. Traditionally, when you see tools, they tell you when other things can happen, but this one's sneaky. Did you see it? Was it going too fast for you? Pulled a sneaky one on you. If you hold down the Alt button with the ruler, you can manipulate exact distance, much like the no snapping. And that is a nice one. And you can adjust it at any time. Look, 35 feet, and then I don't know. I thought that was a cool little trick, I'll be honest. If it's not, I don't say. That being said, that is a super useful tool. I highly recommend everyone learning that one ASAP. Who knows? It may even have another secret hiding away. I'm hilarious. Moving on. The next one is actually something we don't really need right now, but we're going to go ahead and cover it because it's in the tool set. This is your Fog of War. In the last video, you saw me turn on Fog of War for just a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that back on here by going up into our little page settings of our map, enabling Fog of War, and hit OK. Now again, this is a much lighter variant for the DM. When you're a player, it doesn't look like this. It looks like the void summons you. I don't know if that was good on my throat or not, but we're moving on. This is where you can manipulate the Fog of War if you're just doing it as a generic thing. This is not the breakdown for dynamic lighting and lines of sight. That is a whole video on of itself, so be ready for that one. No, this is just your standard issue reveal areas kind of stick. If you click on this and reveal areas, you're going to be able to draw a little box. And hey, this is what the players can see now. Again, this is all black void. They can see nothing except for this little mod of light, this little square and the little box. So if they arrive on the island and it's pitch black, that's basically what they can see. Now again, dynamic lighting and vision cones are a whole different other beast that we'll get to one of these days. That is, unfortunately, not a free tool. This one is, so you've got a little bit of play. And you can adjust as they move on accordingly. That was an interesting noise. With your reveal editors, you also have polygonal reveal or polygon reveal. It's standard issue and straightforward. That's how you can kind of draw things as far as reveal goes. That's like a flashlight point. If you are running more modern games or something, it's an example. It's not a requirement. But there's fun little tools. I, of course, highly recommend you clicking on them and playing on them instead of just watching me ramble on and on and on and on. Yay. You can also hide your areas. So if they drop out of light all of a sudden, so again, they can only see what's in lit. Now they can only see this amount. Why? I don't really know, but it's possible. And then we can go ahead and erase all their vision. It is black to the void again. Part 2. And a resetting a fog is a little bit straight up. So if you have a little bunch, I don't know why their vision will be like that, and you reset the fog. Black void. Are you getting what I'm trying to say here? If you need to highlight the entire day, what you can do in a quick pinch is just cover the entire map with hey, I can see again. You might notice a little bit of lines at the bottom. It's not that big of a deal. If you want to just go ahead and get rid of it entirely, just turn off Fog of War. And you're done with it. Isn't that nice? Our next, but certainly not least, tool is turn order. Ooh. This is, of course, a DM tool that you can use. Turn order is self-explanatory, especially if you're familiar with D&D, and I would hope that you are to some degree. Turn order is who goes next in initiative, who goes next in the combat, who wants to try and solve the puzzle next, who wants to, etc., etc., etc. I'm fine. I just need a drink. When you open up turn order for the first time, you may notice that it's blank. Oh no. What you can do is you can manipulate tokens directly, again by selecting the correct tool, to add to the turn order. You'll see on the right click, it says add turn up here. And look, it's on the turn. And then we can do it again to this little dude. So for this example, the boats are alive, or mimics, I guess. And you can adjust their turn order manually here by changing their numbers. And 8. So this will automatically change. So if it was out of order, it'll automatically go on. You'll have to imagine that one. I promise you it's real. If you go in and add a little cog here, you can sort their options, because players, when they add their tokens to initiative, are not going to be in natural order. So you're going to want to make sure you go ahead and click in descending. Why you would have ascending, I don't know. It's to you. And you can change by alphabetical. And then the miscellaneous world is your card-based games. Rose! You can also change a custom label. So if there's a firestorm coming over the sea, that sounds bad. We're going to go with that. You can add a custom label that says firestorm and add it as a specific round. And every round that comes across is going to get that thing closer, which is bad. And then, of course, you can clear. You can see round calculation here, and if you click on what's this, it's a turn tracker. It's just kind of the same of how long until the firestorm gets to us. It's your custom countdown, so to speak. It's nice. It's not required, because you can just write it down or manually go, hey, I need to remember so many rounds. And as a DM, there's a lot of times where you want to manipulate in the background without showing your players, like a lot of times. So having the round calculation not displayed is probably going to suit you a little bit better. It's up to you if you want to use it. I don't. Last but certainly not least is remove all turns. That should be self-explanatory. So if we're back in our turn order and we can resize it as needed, this little arrow key will cycle to the next person in the turn order. When your players are in initiative, are going to be in initiative, make sure they click their flippin' token before rolling initiative in the sheet. And I'll explain that when we get to character sheets. If they don't, they will not be added to the turn order. If they do, they will automatically be added to the turn order with their correct initiative in the roll, and that helps a lot. Roll20 can glitch a little bit, and sometimes you can't see yourself in the turn order if you do not click your token and then roll initiative. So make sure you do that. It's a lifesaver. You know what I'm saying? Red flag moment. There you go. All right. So we're going to go ahead and close the turn order now, as that's, again, about the end of it. Last but certainly not least in our tools, and I'm going to go ahead and say that's last because this last one here is your helps and shortcuts and reports of bugs. That's standard, straightforward. Hey, I need more information. Hey, what do I do for this? Hey, this stuff is broken. So last but certainly not least is a die roller. If you hover over it, you can see a list of different dies that you can automatically roll. Isn't that magical? And we're going to go ahead and, here, I will show you. If we go back into our chat, I'm going to roll 3 D20s, and there they are. They show up. Isn't that wonderful? And you can see each one. It works. It just works. It's beautiful. The tools at the top here are selectable. They can be rolled for different effects. So a D10 with an exclamation point does something. Not sure what that one does. The more important ones, I'll be honest, is the GM roller. If you click on a GM roller and then click on this, then that will roll as a secret to your GM, which is, of course, us in this regard. This is useful for secret constitution rolls, secret stealth lockpicks, stealing gold, shenanigans of that nature. I don't really use it, I'll be honest with you, but it is helpful to know. So we're going to click that off. And last but certainly not least, that's funny. The fudge roll, I think, is mostly for Goose, but you can kind of manipulate it a little bit outwards, is the advanced dice roller. So if you click on the very bottom here, or if you just go ahead and click on the actual die roller itself, it'll bring up this thing. This is what I use. I think it's a lot easier to see visually of exactly what we're going to do. This little toolbar here is to be able to resize. You can resize it, is what I'm trying to say. Words are good. You know, I get paid to speak. Isn't that weird? But it allows you to see your last 10 rolls, which you can re-roll at any time if you ever need to. Isn't that nice? But more importantly, starting from the top, like you're always supposed to, is your basic rolls. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 20 are your most standard dies you're probably ever going to use. Click on one of them, it'll automatically roll one of them. Easy, simple. The advanced roller is actually something I do use quite frequently. And what this is you can change how many dies are going to be rolled, of what variety. This is where your 100 is, by the way. And then you can plus or minus the result. So a lot of times in D&D, if you are rolling a D20 and you have a plus something to hit, this is the kind of manipulation field you would want to use. And look, that was a terrible roll, but it works. The separation and compounding is for other game modes. Compounded is Shadowrun. I've never played Shadowrun as a tabletop. I played the video game a little bit. Not my thing, but it's cool. I respect it. It doesn't really make a huge difference as far as your exploding dice goes, which is what this thing is. It's not something you're really probably ever going to use. The target number manipulation is the way that you can instant confirm success. So if a character is rolling a Constitution save and they have to get a certain number, you can do a target number of anything greater than or anything less than a specific number. And or greater than. I mean, it's math. It's math, and math is gross, and no one likes math, so I ain't worried about it. Make sure it's on 0. That's not right. Why did that happen? Let me close that. I don't know why it's still stuck on that one. I'll be honest. Don't mess with that. How's that? It's okay. So if we go back to this, then we don't have to mess that up. Easy, simple. You can always just use this as well, but you can use the die roller as well. Good to know. So it'd probably take a refresh to fix that. So that is all of the tools in a nutshell, in a rambling, messy nutshell, of exactly what to use as a DM when you're starting your game. Make sure you tune in next time for another elaborate, rambly video about what to do for free as a new DM in Roll20. And we'll explain more about various tools and trips and ticks and fun nuances and I don't know, maybe talk about smooth jazz. We'll see. But until then, I hope you have a wonderful day because you absolutely deserve it. And wash your hands, wear a mask. It's easy, simple. Ta-ta.